Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Pronago, and today we're going to be looking at the Shambler versus ArbuzBudesh. A 3-game set begins here and now, and we start on Origin X. This is a map that you guys may remember if you've been around a little bit. Shambler was working on this map some time ago. Brace for the comments section, because I don't remember if Biddy B helped him with this map, or if this is entirely Shambler's map. But Shambler is indeed the white Terran in the top right. He is Arbuz but straight, and Shambler, but not gay, is actually Arbuz in the top left, which is, what's his face? He's the brown Protoss. There you go. So I'm going to say Shambler when I mean Arbuz, and I'm going to say Arbuz when I mean Shambler quite a bit, because I usually do look to the name in the top right or top center of the screen next to the production tab, and then I'm like, yeah, that's their name. So prepare to be sexually confused is all I can say. So, yes, they are discussing, by the way, an issue that will happen if you put the Vespene ridges off-center on a grid or stacked on top of another node. And then you can't cap it. That's something that we didn't have to deal with until very recently because the Vespene ridge now has a cap. And it's been able to... Ridge refinery, basically. You can build a refinery on it. So, pretty neat. Pretty cool. All right. The gateway is on the way. And there's been a lot of typing. So I actually don't know if there's going to be a second gateway or if Arbuz is just going to chill and maybe do a 1-gate expand. Now Shambler knows it is a map thing because he's watching this cast. Alright, so we do have a fulcrum on the way for see, I told you, for Shambler, Arbuz's opponent. That's how I can save myself. I'll be like, an Arbuz's opponent is moving in with phalanxes. Oh, okay. Gateway into Grand Library, that's the move. Interesting. I think Shambler's opponent is going to be expecting a bit of a bio move here, because that's kind of the recipe that is often followed by Shambler. But instead, Arbuz is going to be going up against Fulcrums. So mech play is on the cards. There's an anchor being put down and a Cyclops on the way. So just the one Vulture laying defensive mines, and then he's going to waypoint his Vulture across. I don't hate this from the Terran, because in my opinion, right, we drop the Ministry relatively quickly after staffing that anchor, and maybe some kind of structure to block move-ins with ease. Like you could imagine lifting your Fulcrum over here and just dropping a Ministry. It's kind of ballsy, but your opponent has gone for a Grand Library. Their army is actually going to be less powerful early on, and as long as you can scout that they're not massing up like an extra gateway, which I don't even think they can with this base configuration. I think you actually need a pylon in order to do that, without really making it difficult to, for example, harvest Vespene. I guess you could probably put the gateway down right below the Nexus and then just harvest from this angle, and it would probably be fine, but I wouldn't want to test that out right now. And there it is, yeah, the One Folk Ministry expand here for Arbuz's opponent, the Shambler. I'm sure you guys are equally confused, right? It's not just me. And there's the Nexus coming down for Arbuz, so we are going to see him go for that. His Grand Library and Gateway are idle for now, and he's going to add a Cantavist into the mix. Interesting choice. Let's see what he wants to do, what he's prioritizing right now. Is it going to be a second one? He hasn't scouted his opponent at all. So it's actually an Atreus on the way here for our Protoss player as he awaits the discovery of the mech. The Shambler just building in peace. It's a good opportunity to tell you guys that Cosmonarchy has a bi-weekly occurrence where we all meet and play in free-for-alls, team games, FFAs, all that kind of crazy stuff. So I hope that you guys will join us for that. Our next one isn't until the 8th of March, but if you join us this weekend, there will be plenty of people looking for games, looking for zany things. I have it on good authority that several FFAs will be attempted, so feel free to join our Discord server and organize around that. Otherwise, I guess you could not be in our Discord server and just kind of lobby hunt around 3 p.m. Eastern. But I don't know how lucky you're going to be doing that kind of thing. I don't know what sort of value you're going to end up having there. So the first Zealot gets immediately mowed down. That is a reveal of the mech build from the Shambler. What is Arbuz's response going to be? He puts an embassy down, totally not blocking the rally point of his gateway a little bit, although you can still fit big units through there. And even if they couldn't, they could just walk around. So it wouldn't be terrible, but it would just be, it's a little unsightly. Of course, we do have the pylon expanding the vision range. Oh, pretty soon we've got a bug fix on pre-release right now, but obviously this game was played a little bit ago, a couple days ago, I think the 21st of February, if my folder doesn't lie to me. And basically one of the things that DF, one of our contributors, Dark and Fantasies, his full username, was able to do is he was able to help me fix the fact that the power fields don't always display when you select these power nodes. So that is going to be much appreciated, because then we'll actually see the power preview instead of just being like, well, I don't know if he can put another structure there. Witness on the way from the Embassy of Arbuz. You can think of it as an emissary to bring goodwill and cheer to the Shambler's base. But there is a shaman out, so maybe not. You know, you can deploy the shaman to be detecting. And once you detect, you can be sniping that witness. There is a Seedant on the way, but it's actually not in the main base. It's in the natural for Arbuz. Definitely a subscriber to that thought process of I'd rather have gas now than be more gas later. So I'm going to cap the thing I'm not actually making use of right this moment. Which makes a lot of sense, you know, then harvest from the geyser, and now the Seedant is done, and so you can go ahead and post up and grab your extra gas. Now, the witness is going to arrive, and the shaman, watchdog, probably to watchdog scout, actually, an artisan for Arbuz as well, so he'll start harvesting Vespene, probably from these locations here, if I had to speculate. And the Cyclopses are going to be marching into probably death. I mean, you look at the Atreus count, they do take a beating before they can go down, and the Cantavis can also just drop a storm down and kind of negate the value of the shaman to some degree. The shamans are not powerful enough to just absorb it just yet. You need a little bit more than that. I was debating a while ago. Well, I'll come back to that comment in a moment, because we do have a little bit of a heckle here. You can never know how often that's going to be. The Cantavis now pushing out and threatening a storm. You can see Shambler trying to be itchy with his trigger finger to pull back. Only one Atreus actually taking any amount of damage there. The value of the Atreus being so chonky comes in the form of the fact that it doesn't actually stack up to a point where it doesn't, shall we say, do enough damage. It doesn't get splashed enough, right? Well, the Goliaths might try to change that, but there's the storm on a meaty group of the targets, but the Cantavis actually falls back a little bit too far for my liking. Only one Atreus has gone down so far. Looks like it will end up being joined by another. Oh, actually, I second that. That was a Dracoden, not an Atreus, but they are slowly being minced out. The Cyclops count is still pretty high. I like actually moving forward with the Scribes there to draw some of the splash fire, but Arbuz has been a little bit lackluster, lackadaisical with his moves regarding his micro. Definitely wants to focus down some of these units, but doesn't really have the ability to. And I do think a large portion of that comes down to Psystorm not being used to its fullest potential, but also the Cantavis is not that good versus mech by comparison, right? Usually mech units have a little bit more range, and the bio units struggle with that, plus they clump up tighter. The Cyclops isn't as small as a bio unit, even though it is smaller than most mech units. Plus then the Goliaths show up, and everybody knows Goliaths are OP, so let's go into game number 2. And down here in the bottom left we have Shambler is not gay, or Shambler but not gay. Well, but gay? I'm getting confused, guys. Anyway, he's the brown Protoss in the bottom left. That's ArbuzBudesh. And Arbuz but straight is the yellow Terran in the top right. That's the Shambler. And now we are on, let me check the map real quick, Alpha XY. We've definitely seen this map as well. It's funny because I feel like Shambler often plays with Hamster. And Hamster has been the recipient of many Maverick rushes. And look at this. Arbuz but not straight, aka the Shambler, is dropping a stockade. Isn't that wonderful? All is right with the world. He's mind-gamed his opponent by building mech for the first time ever, and we'll have to see what he can deal with. Apparently, he gave Aeud some trouble. I would not expect the Shambler to be playing Protoss recently, but hey, if those replays survive, and they're any good, maybe I'll cast them. Assuming people actually want them posted, of course. I did see that there were some off-race replays added somewhat recently. I think it might have been Shambler versus Nebelheim's Zerg? But anyway, with all that said, we've got 2 gates coming this time around, so not going to go into the Grand Library super fast. And we are also seeing a Worker Scout this time, which I think is really good. Now, the Mason does arrive for the Shambler to see 2 gate. He'll feel a little bit more confident moving out with Mass Maverick versus this kind of thing. Of course, that will be scouted relatively early by this Scribe. I'm not expecting a cancel on the gateway, but if you go Grand Library after 2 gate, you are telling your opponent that you're not planning on expanding anytime soon. Double Maverick is going to catch the Scribe. Not really going to be able to see too much, but at least he confirms there's no Ministry on location. Not that there really would be at this timing, but I guess it would be theoretically possible if he like cut one worker, didn't make that stockade, and actually had a mason over there. Not really that much value that you're going to be able to get out of scouting that far. And look at this. The mason from the Shambler moving into the treasury and the internal 9 o'clock position. The inner 9, if you want to call it that, interior 9. He will undoubtedly start harvesting resources there at some point. And we've got a very early seedant for Arbuz. Okay, that's kind of interesting because maybe that signals he's not going to be going Grand Library after all, and instead he wants to dictate the flow of the match with superior tech. Grand Library is a tech level up of the Gateway, right? It's a similar kind of combat roles, but a little bit more efficient, and some units are downright completely different, like obviously the Cantavis providing Storm is very, very different than, you know, anything that comes out of the Gateway. So we'll see what he wants to do. I know that a lot of Protosses are favoring the robotics units now because the Unitary Union is added, and that is available in this patch, I believe, so maybe we'll see that later on. Also, of course, worth noting that as the Star Pet comes down here for the Shambler, he is going to have to contend potentially with the Vibrance. There's a cast that I did with Alex Gaming that probably won't be live as of the time you're watching this video, but whenever it does come out, I highly recommend checking it out because it shows the Vibrance in action. That being said, we've got a couple of Mavericks. They stim. One Maverick was pretty close to death. A pre-stim immediately. He's going for it. And Shambler is going to dive onto these Draconids. He's already hemorrhaged a couple of Mavericks, but is it worth it? Yes, it is, because, as said before, every time Mavericks kill Draconids, somebody better donate on coffee. All right, eventually that bit will get tired. Perhaps Shambler will get tired of chasing down these Draconids. You can see it's very APM intensive. A lot of money on both sides, but there is an Ardent Authority on the way here for our Protoss player. And that is going to be a very big difference maker. Trojan on the way for the Shambler. Neither player expanding as of right now. I say that, though. Here comes the Scribe, waiting for the 400 minerals required to drop a Nexus right before our eyes at 4 minutes on the dot. All right, the Mavericks have actually mostly congealed and conglomerated closer to the natural ramp. And the other ones that were all the way across the map are going to fall back. We have no healing just yet. Need those Vestry add-ons to heal some of these very wounded, stim-addled Mavericks. They did 4 stim packs, so they essentially have like 2/3 of the health that they should. Fresh Mavericks are in the Trojan. You can unload those very fast. The Trojan, unlike other transports, unloads units very quickly. So that's definitely one of the key details that that unit has. Even the other Terran transport, the Pythian, that you can fit 40 Mavericks in if you want, or, you know, a smaller number of larger units, that doesn't unload them as fast, right? So it's less efficient than the Trojan is by comparison. All right, the Vestry is coming, so there is indeed going to be at least a couple Clerics or a Shaman or something put down. The Ministry is coming down around the same time that the Nexus finishes. Pretty significant drop-off there in terms of the economic time frame. We're probably looking at like 3 or 4 workers that Arbuz will be up, but that can easily be made back by this drop because there's no combat units ready and no static defense here. So what's the reaction time from Arbuz? Very fast to pull his workers. And remember, he does have a Nexus finished. So, you know, he'll snipe the Seedant. That does kind of sting because that's basically taking out some of the gas income. And then he'll go away. Bye. Not a bad move there. He's actually waypointing a couple of Masons down, so his economy isn't that far behind his opponent, especially with the lost mining time and the dropped Seedant. So not bad there whatsoever. He also scouts the Ardent Authority. Whether he expects that the embassy was making a transport in the form of the Envoy is one thing. We'll have to see. I don't see any watchdogs or positioning, so it looks like our transports might even meet each other in the middle of their journey because we are going to see 2 different Trojans on the way. There is a Warden that's just now warping in, but that takes about 35 seconds from the point of origin. So definitely going to see that take some time and probably be focused down by the Trojan, which is thinking about coming in at a pincer move, a unison move. There's plenty of units here to cover the natural, but not so for the main base, which is unloading further back. Where's Arbuz's reaction? This time a couple of Scribes will end up going down. Looks like he'll end up losing 3. Could end up focusing down a few more. But as that happens, here comes the rest of them, and no cancel on that poor Warden. No pullback either, so we're up to 7 Scribes lost, and more are counting. Arbuz has not looked over. He's just lost so many. Instead, he's unloaded inside the mineral line of the Shambler, and he's maintaining a lot of focus on that, while the Masons, or the Mavericks, just leave. So there's definitely a lot of economic damage on both sides. Shambler looking better with his economy. Trying to unload one more shot and then leave. Nice moves there to kill 3 additional Masons. That was a fortune favors the bold kind of moment, and he might even fly over this treasury to shut down that area. I was looking around to see if there was any transports full of Mavericks that might try to fight that, but as it turns out, not quite. So will Arbuz actually pay attention to that? It doesn't look like it. Oh yeah, there it is. He's going to go ahead and unload. Now, the Acantor is pretty strong, right? It doesn't even have any hull damage to it, so it can absolutely get a lot of damage dealt to this position. And it'll also show off a really cool feature about the new Acantor there. He's trying to unload to bait the shots. A new feature of the Acantor is that its projectile always goes to max range. Yeah, that's not going to work out, really, my friend. And the Protoss Gateway Army with the Clarion is moving across the map. At the same time, the Clarion cloning shield damage. 50% of all damage dealt to one target will be distributed across all targets that are linked by phase link, by that pulsating circular overlay there. So the Acantor cleans house on both treasuries, make sure no mining is happening. Watchdogs on the extremities. Still no saturation here on the main base. That's a big whiff from the Shambler. He's sent a bunch of his workers off to the side. Those were from the treasury in the interior 9. And as the Mason, or as the Cantor is going to be facing down some Masons there, flies right over the defenses, it's going to unload and get some more value happening, as the Clarion could just be focused down here by the Shambler, but he's responding to so many issues across the whole map. He's losing Masons some elsewhere. Mavericks are storming up the ramp to see if they can defend versus this attack, and the Clarion is still in play, making it even harder for this army to engage. There we go, finally taken care of. But look, the Acantor is going to only get one shot off, killing a single Maverick, but did a lot of economic damage. Even despite that, there's only a 3-worker advantage for Arbuz. His macro has slipped quite a bit. He's had over 1,000 minerals. A couple of his workers are idle. He's now making another Acantor. He does have the Envoy still, although it is wounded, so it's always a little bit harrowing to put a unit in there, especially one as expensive as an Acantor. All right, well, no rebuilding of the Sedent, just harvesting gas from multiple bases. Waypointing more units across. No splash damage, no crowd control, just Drakodons, Ecclesiasts, and Zealots. The Ancial might end up getting focused down, but it doesn't look like that's the case. A couple of the Servitors are here. Those do add a lot of consistent DPS, but really you can't underestimate how powerful Stimmed Mavericks are. They aren't really focusing down individual targets. Here comes the Ancial to try to shield them. Definitely doing a great job. You probably thought that fight was going to go Arbuz's way, but the Stimmed Maverick just continues, and with the Ancial showing up as well, it definitely makes it a more even trade. Some of these Drakodons doing very, very nicely in their current form. They have a little bit more HP than people might be used to. And meanwhile, we've got the Envoy rocking around the Christmas tree. Not really, it's not that time of year yet, but eventually it will be. And I look forward to it. Got the Shaman on the way, another Ancial on the way. So the stack of healing and shielding, eventually you do get into a tough situation. With these Trojans are completely empty. They're just there for a fake out. One of the things that I'm curious about as we get a little bit deeper into this game is, what is Shambler's game plan to come back in this situation? Got a Stockade. He's adding Covenants, so it looks like he's going to stick to the bio, of course. But not a single Fulcrum, even for like one Phalanx production every so often. That is a bit interesting. The Trojans fly by the Envoy. I don't think either player really noticed that that was happening. One of these treasuries will be going down. You can return to these for the resources, as the Shambler was showing us earlier. Now, I believe this map is made by the Shambler and BDB together, so I didn't get that part wrong. And I believe the next map is also a Shambler and BDB special, so expect some more stuff in part 2 of this video set between these two players. But as of right now, we are getting a little bit deeper into the game. The Prostration stage is on the way, so we are going to get that Tier 3 Disciple unit, the Profane Disciples, on the field for the Protoss. Probably worth asking you guys, I usually don't spend a long time discussing the lore and the setting of Cosmonarchy. You know, there's the Caprulu sector, but in Cosmonarchy we have the Chrysilient sector. Still starts with a K, which maybe I could have chosen differently to be super different in terms of acronyms. Like K sector now might mean 2 different things, but either way, let me know if you guys want me to talk a bit more about the lore, because, you know, we talk about the Profane Protoss, and some people might not really know what that means, but if I talk about it some more, maybe people will figure it out, right? Another Stockade added. The Convicts out of the Stockade, that's why it's called the Stockade to begin with. And look at that, the Envoy with the Acantor getting sniped by Watchdogs. Arbuz was not predicting so many. I don't even know if Shambler clocked that. I wasn't paying attention to the minimap cameras, but if he did, he'll be very pleased. And if he doesn't, he'll just be like, oh look, Protoss-themed rubble in my base. I'm happy now. The one Dracodon watching the third base location is very, very nice. Arbuz even catching that Trojan. We saw his camera flip over to that position. So that's definitely going to inform him. He's already got double Warden over here, protected by the Nexus. Can't snipe that as easily as he sniped, for example, the Sedent with that first drop. And a Matrix in the natural as well as a Warden, I think is pretty good. So he's going to go ahead and cap his Ridge in the third base. His economy looking very nice right now. Arbuz has a worker advantage of what looks to me like... Oh, he just jumped ahead. I was going to say he had like 8, but now he's got 11. And the Maverick drop shouldn't really be able to do too much, especially, oh no, especially with those idle Dracodons there. And Shambler equally not on the ball as the Acantor was. And under normal circumstances, I might be a little bit concerned for ArbuzBudesh, but he's got 5 Acantors, or 4. Is there a 5th one down here? Yeah, I selected 5 earlier. The one Dracodon blocking the landing of this Ministry. So it'll probably go the other way and then get blocked by that one. Although he is going to waypoint a few units out there wisely to deal with that, it looks like. Big army here. The one thing that is a saving grace for Shambler is he has 8 Eidolons with his main army. If the Mavericks get in the way of all of the Acantor shells, then maybe the Eidolons can pick them. But it's going to require some very nice micro, and we're also going to need to keep watch on where those Ant Seals go, where those Shamans go. As he scouts ahead over this little rusty pit doodad, what can he do? Stims preemptively. The Shamans have already healed most of that damage. A couple of those shots go wild. Not what you necessarily want. He's got to break through that single Clarion, hovering very, very awkwardly in the middle of the map. Instead, he goes for the Pariah. Oh, but look at how much splash damage just happened. I mean, Acantors tear up Bio. It's just right there, plain as day. Still didn't even kill the Clarion. Insult to injury as the Shaman is killed. He's going to stim after things. He does snipe the Clarion there. That's going to have to be a skill that Terran players in particular really learn now that the Clarion comes out of the Ardent Authority. It's a little bit more reachable. And you know, at the same time, just like Protoss have been abusing Terrans who are a little bit lackadaisical with their Ant Seal positioning, you got to be protective of your Clarions in the same way. So it's going to be an interesting thing to keep watch for. Meanwhile, some workers preemptively rallied over in that location. Only now is the third base going down, and this Dracodon does successfully delay it. Of course, that small hit squad there clears this position. 2 Eidolons in the anchor, joined by 2 Mavericks. It's a cramped room in there, that's for sure. Another Pariah has hit the front line. Definitely a lot of synergy there with the Clarion. That's always what I envisioned as well. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I always thought that, like, yeah, Protoss could go for heavy long-range stuff, right? And right now, Architects are definitely providing that kind of value from the Unitary Union. But thematically, it does feel a bit more... You know, it feels like it hits home more. If you just have this shield cloning thing that lets you take the hits on the way with your melee, and you slice them with your swords. That is more thematic for the Protoss, in my estimation. But we'll see if the Shambler can hold the Protoss onslaught at bay. He's not really able to get active on the map, and Arbuz is taking 2 more bases, one of them already mining, about half saturation once those scribes get to it, and the other one just now being set up, nascent for the time being. And his army will start to move across the map. We'll see what he can make happen as he adds another prostration stage and 2 ancestral archives. He does have artisans harvesting a little bit of Vespene and minerals from the normal third base, I think, that we would normally say. It looks like there's 4 artisans over there. A couple of them are stacked, so it's a bit hard to see. Anchor and a stockade wall being put down, and another ministry has been constructed. Should probably end up being floated over to this position once it's cleared. Trojans are only now falling back, as Shambler has remembered that they exist. Preemptive capping of just the ridge, not any of the geysers? Is that true? Yeah, he hasn't even recapped his ridge over here, so interesting. Big old bio blob of 38 Mavericks and 7 Eidolons. Those are the heavy hitters here. The one Dracodon being pushed away by the Eidolons. Awkward. I don't know, man. I need to see a little bit more out of Shambler's composition. This is the worry I have when Terrans go full bio and don't have a single phalanx to deal with like artillery like the Acantors, and also stay on tier 1 for a very long time. I mean, we have an up Tecton. We've got 2 up Tectons coming out. One of them already finished. Sure, it's going to take a while for them to actually show up, but that will easily be the death knell if it's even necessary. Those siege engine type units are super powerful. These Titanic Strider type units that absolutely annihilate bio units. The Acantor is doing quite a bit of damage now. 9 range is nothing to scoff at, and the Eidolons are just being collapsed upon on that right-hand side. They are gone. Where's the rallies out? Shambler's micro leaving something to be desired as Arbuz pushes forward, forcing a destruction of that ministry that is in production. Well, thankfully for Shambler, he does get rid of the last of the frontliners, so up that ramp might be a little bit too much to ask for. Arbuz has no detection. And yes, the Acantor did get a single +1 weapon range buff. But their projectile always goes to max range as well, which is a very big buff for them. Because it means if they target something in the mid-range, it doesn't just dud mid-range. It goes all the way. So that's another thing that Shambler will have to think about when it comes to his micro, as he is indeed getting busted up. And yeah, even getting a little bit of value over here with this small hit squad. They are getting pieced apart by the couple of bio units in the anchor, but I think we're just about done wrapping things up. Shambler only getting now the pieces put together. Uptectons masked up, not showing their stuff in the battle, unfortunately. Well, he's still sending a couple of units out. I think Arbuz is only now realizing, wait, this guy is being a jokester. So we'll see what he ends up doing. He never ended up landing that ministry. And we'll just fast forward through this. So with this game, wait, is this not over? Is he still trying? Shambler, why you type? Well, he does have an Atlas halfway complete. I guess we'll actually... I've never started to fast forward through a game that I thought was over before to find out that it wasn't over. I do apologize for that, ladies and gentlemen. Usually when people type that much, that it's like the game's over and they're just... That's their signal. That's my signal to speed through and get to the score screen. But hey, we'll see the Uptectons in action after all. And 2 Clarions this time, each Clarion making it harder to break the other Clarion because it does distribute the damage, some of it, to the next target. It just makes it a lot harder to focus down one particular target. And there's the Uptectons. They crack open a few shots. The Pariahs taking a lot of abuse on the way back. Just kind of sharking around. And yeah, I mean, the Clarion's just making it so much easier for this ground force to move into range of the Eidolons. Probably would be a different story for Phalanxes because you're splashing a lot more. Kind of like how Splash does a bit better versus Anseals. But the Pariahs, the Servitors, and the Uptectons are going to force a GG out of the Shambler. A rare GG out of the Shambler. And that brings us to a close. Arbuz ties us up. We've got one more game to take a look at, and we will do so probably for tomorrow's video. So subscribe if you're not already. Join us on our Discord server if you want to play with us or just share your thoughts about the project. And of course, we've got more single-player stuff coming, more exciting, just general developments like new units or revised units coming. So yeah, just stick around, I guess. I mean, Cosmonarchy is pretty epic.